Sagar University, inspiring future trailblazers today.
Yeah, over to you, Bhairavi. You can.
Sir, I'm just trying to play my other slide. I'm just trying. You are going
Stop this video. You can stop this video if you
yes,
want.
yeah.
You want me to play it?
Yes, sir. The
Okay.
other video.
Yes.
First of all, thank you all for your patience. We had some technical glitch. That's the reason we are running a little late. And now, good morning and a warm welcome to all the distinguished principals and highly esteemed teachers on behalf of Dayananda Sagar University. I extend a warm welcome to each one of you participating in this enlightening webinar, a pivotal component of our School Development Initiative program. It's truly a pleasure to have such a distinguished gathering of educators from across Pan-India, coming together to contribute to the advancement of education. Dayananda Sagar University takes great pride in being a part of esteemed Dayananda Sagar institution, which encompasses top-notch colleges, universities, and international schools, collectively striving for educational excellence. The SDIP initiative is a testament to our commitment to the professional development of the educators. Through a wide range of enlightening workshops and training sessions, we aim to empower the teachers with the knowledge and skills necessary for navigating the ever-evolving landscape of education. Recognizing the critical role educators play in shaping the future, our initiative places a special emphasis on their well-being, offering opportunities and pedagogical approaches that contribute to their continuous growth. The rise in adolescent suicide is indeed a troubling trend that demands attention and comprehensive strategies to address the complexities involved in it. Let's delve deeper into the social, psychological, and environmental dimensions contributing to this alarming trend that has garnered significant attention from researchers, mental health professionals, and policymakers. Understand the multifaceted factors contributing to this issue, which is crucial for developing effective prevention strategies. Today, we are fortunate to have experts amongst us who will guide us through these multifaceted dimensions. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce you all to our first speaker for the day, Dr. K. N. Balasubramanian Murthy, Professor of CSE and Vice Chancellor, Dayananda Sagar University, former Vice Chancellor, PES University, Bangalore. Sir holds a bachelor's degree in electrical power engineering, master's degree in electrical engineering from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and a PhD in computer science and engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Sir has worked as a research specialist in parallel computing at New Mexico State University, USA. Sir is also a former member of Karnataka State Higher Education Council and the Academic Senate member of IIT Dharwad. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Our second speaker today is Dr. G. Vikram Prabhu, who has done his MBBS from Kasturba Medical College, Bangalore. He then completed his MD in psychiatry at the Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore. Subsequently, he did further training at the Washington University School of Medicine, St. Louis, USA. Sir is currently a consultant psychiatrist at Sagar Hospital, Bangalore. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, sir, to set the context and share some few words of wisdom with us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Honorable co-panelist, Dr. Vikram Prabhu, sir, Ms. Shinde, and Madam Bhairavi, Chavan, and other distinguished faculty, colleagues from various schools across the country. Thanks for joining this session wherein we will listen to the expert and who is going to tell us what are the ways, means we can comprehensive strategy to handle the problem. I'm happy that Dayanand Sagar University, Bengaluru, has been organizing several programs in the last 2 to 2.5 years to create some awareness among the teaching fraternity and others on topics of relevance to all of us, and also create some awareness among the various programs of study, their scope, opportunities, etc. The idea is to ensure that everyone has to have the information to take an informed choice in terms of their careers, particularly in the student community. As for the topics of SDIP, the Student Development Initiative Program, these are the topics which have been chosen to create some kind of awareness among the educators and see how exactly the education system can help everybody concerned. Today's topic is an extremely sensitive topic. I think Vikram Prabhu sir will help us to understand this very well, and possibly you would suggest what are the things that we need to do. From my perspective, because I am a person from engineering background in the field of education in the last 4 decades, I understand the things a little bit from the educator's perspective as a teaching faculty. I think the present day systems or the education system needs to bring in some kind of environment or ambience for each and every one to be part of it, and also benefit from the ambience and gain whatever knowledge and the good thing that they can gain. There's a kind of ambience that we need to create. In the recent years, there are lots of things which are trying to create some kind of pressure among every one of us. Maybe the students, the entire world itself, because they are in a hurry to achieve more things in a short period of time. Thereby, it contributes to stress. And more or less, the stress is the main cause for many of the things, many of the health issues, the mental issues, etc. I think as far as we are concerned, educators are concerned, probably we need to look at the whole thing from a different perspective, or trying to look at how exactly these things were handled in the past. Because I strongly believe the ancient education system had solutions for everything that we are talking about today. The ancient Indian education thing, ancient Indian practices had solutions for everything. Possibly they had solutions after going through several of these problems prior to that. Therefore, the support system is one thing which was there in the ancient Indian education system, the life system itself. The support system was in the form of a giant family. That's what I strongly believe, because a giant family is such a wonderful setting for most of this, the issues get solved, where there'll be someone or the other in the family would chip in and say, don't worry, there's nothing to worry about it. This is a simple problem. Why are you worried about it? I had gone through this particular problem earlier. And there are lots of people to talk to. And there are lots of people to observe and come back if somebody is having stress with regard to anything. Because there'll be lots of people observing each and every one of us in the family system. There's a giant family system. I was trying to look at the kind of support system that used to come in. The support system in the giant family system was so huge, wherein there were a good number of people to share the issues, share the problems, share the stress. So some solutions to evolve, the family used to get together and resolve the issues. I think thereby the stress was not to be there for too long. Many of these problems become the complex or difficult when the support system is not there. And as an educator, as a education institution, what is it we can do? I think, can we provide a similar support system by converting or by transforming our education institutions into a giant family or the extended family? When the extended family is going to be there, I'm sure there's a support system that's going to come in. There will be lots of things which are going to be observed, where build the confidence in each and every individual and tell them, don't worry about anything. You don't have to worry about the stress at all. These kinds of problems we have seen. These can be easily solved. Second, we also need to give confidence to everybody in the extended family. Because extended family is basically the students, the teachers, the management, the alumni, the society, parents, everybody get together. I think we have a larger extended family than the giant family system that we can never think of. Therefore, the power of the extended family is too huge. We need to exploit it. We need to use that. And most of these things become complex if something is going to become unnoticed. Something is going to become the thing which gets internalized. I think if I have some stress, I'll try to internalize the stress to myself. I don't share the stress at all. I don't share the problem at all. When I don't share the problem, then even a small issue becomes a big issue for myself because I don't share that. Therefore, in the extended family, it's possible to find solutions. I was look at the topic. My focus is more from the educator's involvement, educator's perspective. What is that an education institution can do? I think 3-4 things that can be done. One is to inform everybody concerned there's a extended family or support system available in the entire group. That's point number 1. Point number 2, start identifying, looking at the issues that are going to be there or bothering anyone. There's a second thing. Basically, there are multiple kind of things we need to observe. Maybe there's attention deficit in somebody. Maybe the behavioral issues in somebody. These are some of things. Probably expert would tell us more about that. I'm not an expert in this area. I think some of these things we can notice and immediately talk to them and find out what the thing is. Is there a find a solution? The second thing that an institution can do is to tell the power of this extended family. Point number 1. Point number 2, tell everybody that each one of us have the same abilities. When your sum total of abilities will remain the same. Because we are all human beings, each one of us have the same abilities. Someone have a better ability or a great ability in one, but may not have the great ability in the other. When you do this sum, it becomes 100. there's a second point which you need to bring in. For example, somebody is really good in mathematics, may not be so good in history. Somebody may be really good in communication, may not be good in mathematics. When you do the sum of these two abilities, possibly it becomes 100. This is the other thing which you need to say, that every one of us have the same ability, and we need to start extending that confidence or extending that ability from one to the other. It has to become viral. When I'm good in mathematics, what stops me to become good in history? When I'm good in sports, what stops me in becoming good in studies? When I'm good in music, what stops me to become good in sports? I think we need to start believing in these kinds of things and extend from one to the other. I think there's a second thing which a education institution can do. The third is to create that respectful interaction in the system. There must be respect for everybody. Everybody, there must be some kind of respect. Every interaction has to be respectful. Thereby, some kind of confidence starts building up. Then we also need to create an environment which is quite calm and comfortable, etc. And we can achieve anything and everything, even if the task is of very high order. We can achieve it because we have that the calm environment in the system, the comfortable environment in the system, the confidence in the system. I think a student can achieve whatever they want, a teacher can achieve whatever they want, provided the environment is really good. When the confidence is very high, the concentration is very high, there is support system. I think the abilities, outcomes are going to be phenomenal. I think these are some of the things which be helpful in handling the critical issue of the prevention of the adolescence issues and the trends, etc. With these few opening remarks, I request the expert to tell us more about it, and also thank the organizers for selecting a topic which all of us need to be concerned, and start working on some strategies which would be helpful for us to tackle with ease and start building the confidence in everybody, supporting the people in every possible way, and tell them nothing to worry. There's a lot more can be done. You can achieve whatever they want. I think I keep telling my students whenever they come to me, if they say, I did not get the placement in one company, I tell them there's a better company awaiting for you to join. Don't worry about this company. This company is all done now. I think there may be a better offer awaiting for you. Therefore, you did not get it here. And today morning, I was talking to Shinde. I was telling them something is not going to happen. It means a better thing is awaiting. Therefore, this has not happened. That's how I look at things. That's how I develop the positive attitude in me all the time. I think that support system makes a huge difference. I think as an education institution, we need to give that support system. The giant family system kind of support that was there in the family, a similar kind of thing can be brought in an extended family. With these things, I thank the organizers and request Dr. Prabhu sir to take over. I don't know whether what I spoke so far was relevant or not relevant. I don't know. I have no clue about it because I have no expertise in this area. And I request Prabhu sir to take over and tell us more about it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your words. Now I would request Dr. Vikram Prabhu to take over and he can start up with his session. Meanwhile, I would also request the participants to key in their questions in the question and answer box, so which can be taken over at the end of the session, and Dr. Prabhu sir will answer them. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good morning and namaste to everyone. Dr. K.N.B. Murthy, the Vice Chancellor of Dayanand Sagar University, Mr. Srinivas Sinde, the CMO of Dayanand Sagar University, and Ms. Bhairavi Chavan, who is coordinating this program. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking the initiative in setting up this talk, this collective participation where principals and educators from all over the country have been involved. Somehow, this word suicide is there all over. It's the elephant in the room, but very difficult to acknowledge. It's so huge that it cannot escape our attention. It cannot. But to speak about it, to even utter the word, is a very daunting task for a lot of people. I'm not just talking about students and the educational institutions, but I think it terrorizes a lot of people because of the negative connotations associated with it. But it has been there from times immemorial. It's a part of human experience, maybe human existence, and a very tragic one. Everyone, as a doctor, I keep seeing everyone comes seeking help and wants to have good health and live. But this is an event where someone ends his or her life, and it's a great tragedy. So it's there all over in the media, in the electronic and the print media, in stories, folklore, fiction. I'm sure over a period of time, we would have known families and individuals who have been affected by it. I thought, I'll begin with some definitions. See, this whole, it's called suicidology. There's a branch of behavioral science which deals with the study of suicide. So it's called suicidology. And there are books which have been written, obviously, because, this is studied. And let me acknowledge, as a psychiatrist, that there are a lot of things we need to know. So there are some things we know, but there are a lot of things we don't know. Let me admit that in all humility. And also, this area probably is multidisciplinary in its scope. For example, you come across farmers suicide, and this is a big problem all over the country, more so in Maharashtra, Karnataka. So there may be a set of factors which play an exclusive role in farmer suicide. Maybe they call it agrarian crisis, issues specific to the farmers. So similarly, here we are focusing today on adolescent suicide. And I think, you can say that you do see that the suicide rates go up from puberty onwards, maybe 13, 14, and right through the subsequent period of study, which can extend, 27, 28, 30. And since all of your educators, I think you'll be dealing with these individuals. So the first definition, there are many terms, but I thought what is currently used often, I'll just focus on that. Suicidal thoughts or ideation. So we know that's at a mental level, thinking about suicide. So there are two kinds. One is active and passive. In the passive part, sometimes you have people making this statement, I would be better off dead, I wish I was not around. They don't say that they want to end their lives as such. That would be a active, expression of having a suicidal thought. But a passive one, But when you talk to them, they say, no, 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 I don't want to end my life. But I sometimes feel, I would have been better off dead rather than face all this. So you have suicidal thoughts or ideation, which can be passive and which can be active. And then you have uh, a suicidal attempt where there is a destructive act with an intention to die. Now, I think it is important to keep one thing in mind. People have used the word, deliberate self-harm. I may bang my head against the wall. Now, that's an act of deliberate self-harm. Or I may go and box the wall out of frustration. It's a deliberate act, intentional act, but then it's not with the intention to die. So suicide is a self-destructive behavior with an intention to die. Then there are suicidal threats where a person verbalizes suicidal ideation, and there are another very important set of phenomena. It's called non-suicidal self-injurious behavior. Non-suicidal. For example, this is quite common now in our country also, compared to what it used to be, let us say 20, 25, 30 years ago. People cutting themselves or, hurting themselves. But it is more to relieve distress rather than with an intention to die. You can see people, youngsters especially, who have cut their wrists, forearm, and they say it was to relieve their distress and their psychological pain. So these are the terms which are in use. So it sets a context. What we will do is next look at the magnitude of the problem. Now, if we talk about something which is very, very rare, you hardly come across, and there's no point discussing that. But does this problem require public attention? I say public attention because is it a cause of public health importance? No, it is. And it is not something very rare. So the data, we should back up with data. If you say road traffic accidents are common in India, then we should see what the rates are in different countries and where do we stand. So similarly, in our country, unfortunately, we have only the this NCRB is the National Crime, Registry Bureau, Record Bureau, and we have data in 2021, which says that 13,089 students died by suicide. See, that's another thing. At this juncture, I would like to also say, they say died by suicide. A lot of times we find the term, the sentence being used, committed suicide. They say that may be more stigmatizing, pejorative view, attribute to motive. So when we talk, we can also say, for example, he died of a heart attack or he died of a cancer. Similarly, died by suicide may be a better way, more acceptable. This is the worldwide trend. So rather than saying he committed means a more intentional, willful act, and you're blaming also in a way. I commit a theft, I commit a crime. So they are trying to probably decriminalize the act also, which has happened in Indian law. I'll come to that a bit later. So there's a 32.5% jump in the rate from 2017. So about 4 years, you see a 1/3 jump. And mind you, 36 students died by suicides in 2021 every day. In India, the phenomena of suicide is constantly individualized or personalized, allowing society to escape accountability. So we only look at it through the prism of the individual, and we haven't taken a broader outlook in explaining the phenomena. So we only say, okay, what happened to him, and what was going on, why did he do it? But what went on in his life, and what were the circumstances broadly, as um, Dr. Murthy was saying, looking at it from a family, societal perspective, and that probably is a lot better. So, unfortunately, this crime records is what is there with the police. So, a lot of stuff is unreported, and those don't reflect in this data. So, these are very grossly underreported or low figures. Uh, NCRB started including data on student suicide since 1997. I was told that in the United States, when students join college, they start collecting data about behavior, health data. So there's also the psychological component. So that is at the college level, and they pool it, and they have that source, whatever goes on. This is all from the law. So for every 100 suicides, probably you only get 63 which are reported. So you have a 37% lower rate. This is not from our country, it's foreign data. It was published in one of the medical journals called Lancet. So, what I'm trying to emphasize is that there's gross underreporting, and we don't really have accurate figures in our country. So, the other important aspect is suicide should be viewed as a multi-dimensional public and mental health issue. So there are medical aspects and also other aspects. I'll come to that a bit later. There are complex interactions with the economic, social, cultural, psychological, and biological realms of individual and collective existence. Now, what are the risk factors? You see, the uh, purpose of this whole exercise, in my opinion, is to sensitize all of you and to create awareness. As I said, there's a lot uh, to talk about this, but if you're all grassroot uh, persons, in the sense you're out there in the community and interacting with students. I may talk many things and theories, but what do you do when you're with the students? You should be able to identify, recognize, and your antennae should go up when you see certain red flags. They say, the eyes see what the mind knows. The eyes see what the mind knows. So if I can give you a broad overview, you'll be able to recognize, because your minds have been sensitized to this not so rare phenomenon. So attempted and completed suicide is a complex and multidimensional act. It's the final act that we see, or the individual who is at who is in distress, we are seeing as the final thing. But a lot of things are there in the background which have gone on at the family level, societal level, individual level. So it's a complex and multi-dimensional act. Usually the result of many interacting factors rather than a single cause. The best predictor, I think this is important, this best predictor of future suicidal behavior is current and recent past suicidal behavior. So actually, it's quite difficult to predict, but this probably is the best predictive factor. If someone has made attempts in the past, each subsequent attempt increases the future risk of an attempt and also ending, their life. Suicidal behavior, it says. So suicidal behavior would refer to attempts as well as completed acts. The more serious the previous episode of suicidal ideation or behavior, the greater the future risk. So sometimes you have people attempting making serious attempts, I would say, or very violent attempts to, harm themselves, or very strong thoughts. So they are particularly at greater risk. So now the next thing is, who are the vulnerable? Let's try to just dwell a little bit on that. Now, the first thing that I have put here is the psychiatric disorders. We, uh, as I said, have to look at it from multidimensional. So, if you take a car for some repair work, you say that it's not starting properly. So then maybe the electrical system needs to be looked into. What is wrong? Is the battery not okay? Or is there something else with the electrical system? So similarly, a lot of people may consult behavioral or mental health experts. So it is of paramount importance that a psychiatric disorder be ruled out. 90% of suicide and attempted suicide individuals have mental disorders. Now, this 90% probably is more for Western countries, America, Europe. In our country, maybe it is around 70% or so, 60, 70. 60, 70% means more than half. So please look at it that way. There may be a higher incidence, but more than half of them have a diagnosable psychiatric disorder. Maybe in China and in our country, this is the trend. But still, they have a large proportion have diagnosable psychiatric disorders. And they are depression, which is a mood disorder, feeling low, bipolar disorder, which is again a mood disorder, feeling low and high, and conduct disorder, anxiety disorders, and substance use. Substance use would include alcohol and other drug use. So I'm again emphasizing, maybe about in our country, 60, 70% of them have a diagnosable psychiatric disorder. And the common disorders are depression, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders, substance disorder, or substance use disorder. And then you have behavioral and personality factors. They say that personality is something that probably develops until the age of 18 or so. That's usually the cutoff. People beyond 18 are considered to be adults. So you can also use the term temperament prior to, or an evolving personality. But you can see people, youngsters with aggressive, impulsive behavior, highly aggressive, impulsive. Impulsive is engaging in an act first and then realizing the consequences, or giving little thought to the potential consequences or outcomes of an action. So a lot of individuals who are aggressive and impulsive may be at risk. Depressive, thinking, those who have, hopelessness. Our Dr. Murthy was mentioning how we can encourage all students. That's the duty of the educationists and teachers. But will all students also be receptive enough to words of encouragement? Probably some, feel a lot of time as their personality hopeless, and think, all right, whatever I try to do, the outcome will not be that good. So that hopelessness And the next point, pessimism as a negative cognitive style. See, this word, cognitive style, that is their way of thinking. There may be some who are, highly optimistic individuals. Rather than seeing a glass half empty, they see it always as half full. Some always see it as half empty, or vice versa. So these are some things which have to do with temperament. So these kind of individuals also may be vulnerable. Previous suicidal behavior, I just mentioned this a bit earlier. A quarter to one third of those who die by suicide have a history of past attempt, one third. So maybe almost 35% have a past history. And even in attempters, there's a 10% risk in a 30 years follow-up. So someone makes an attempt, there is a 10% risk for future completed suicide. Biological and genetic factors. So as I said, psychiatric disorders, impulsive, aggressive traits, they may be heritable and running in families. So sometimes you get a history when a boy is brought, adolescent boy, the father also has similar traits, and they may be heritable. So there may be a family history. So some of these genetic and biological factors play a role. And negative life events. Now, there is considerable evidence that stressful life events contribute independently to youth suicide attempts. Stress within the family, parent-child conflict, lack of emotional support. So, unrealistic parental expectations, feeling of failure for their inability to live up to parental expectations, child abuse, bullying, harassment, and victimization by peers. Now, you see the first few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, probably are in the realm of the family. So, what again Dr. Murthy was mentioning, if there's an extended family, maybe there is more protection because there are more adults to interact with the individual, adolescent, and stress also is more effectively dealt with. So having good emotional support, less parent-child conflict, and less stress in the family, these are all things which might be positive. But given the high level of urbanization and pressures to do well, to match up, parents also have higher expectations, can definitely be stressful. Child abuse, bullying and harassment. So this is something for the educators, and that's this school college level. Bullying, harassment, and victimization. Nowadays they have a lot of institutions have anti-bullying policies, and I think there's greater sensitivity. Stressful life events related to peers. Older female adolescents having a loss of romantic relationship may be more vulnerable, and that may be particularly stressful. So that also makes it a risk factor. Being subject to school disciplinary procedures and school problems, this is a vicious cycle, and sometimes it can be a dilemma whether to discipline, when to call in the parents, and how much to discipline, in what way to discipline. You want to convey something and correct the child, if I may say, and send a positive message. So I would only say if we do it with sensitivity to whatever extent and involve the parents also, it will be a good idea. So I just thought, I'll dwell for a moment on academic distress, because in our country, I think there is definitely a very important factor. Societies, say, use education.
Sir, you can take it down there. You can enable the editing. you can enable the editing, and
Huh.
then take the cursor to the right. You can take the cursor down.
Huh.
There are
You're
three buttons there.
right.
Next to it, sir. Next to it.
You're not able to see the full content, sir?
We were able to see two slides together.
Oh, okay.
You can take it to the slide, show it down there.
Oh, okay. At present, is it
We can even see the other slides on the left side. Sir, you
okay?
can take the cursor down, sir. Take the
Okay,
cursor
okay.
down.
Take the cursor down. Yes.
Now, just before where you have that plus and minus sign on the right side corner,
Yes. Yes.
before that, there is a slideshow. You can click on that, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Not
Okay.
that, not that, not that.
Huh.
Next one. Next
Huh.
one. Next
Next
one.
one.
Next
Huh.
one, sir.
Next.
Yeah,
Huh.
that one.
Okay. Oh, yes. Certainly.
Now it has come.
Thank you for that. So, academic distress, just a few minutes I think we should spend on this, because
Yes,
at the educational institution level, schools, colleges, this is going to be important, and this is a major issue in our country. Now, societies use education as a means to prepare the next generation. Dr. Murthy was saying about education molding individuals, and there's no doubt that would have been the original purpose. States to perpetuate their ideology. Uh, uh, you see, we are sitting in Karnataka, and this new educational policy has run into some controversy. They don't want to implement it. I would say all authority should be given to the educationists, and I think the administration should simply follow. It should be a technical matter, not a political issue. What is good for the students, the future citizens should be implemented. And I think even involving the parents, educationists as stakeholders, maybe even the students, they are the ones who are going through all this. And we underestimate their capacities, unfortunately. So education can lead to distress, which is very sad. I am of the opinion that education, learning should be a enriching, and there should be joy in it. You're miserable going to school or college every day. Not a good thing, isn't it? We all want to go to our workplace we should be looking forward to it. So in our country, it is a means to livelihood rather than knowledge. Now, there are in our country, knowledge was of two kinds. Uh, Paravidya, they said, and Aparavidya. So, what I studied during my medical college days, most of it is sort of transformed, if not outdated. So, I keep wondering, with every edition of the book, things keep changing. There is other kind of knowledge, maybe, true knowledge of oneself, and maybe some wisdom. It's unchanging. So, livelihood, everything is oriented towards eking out a livelihood and having a career. So, government job is often the goal. I would have said the goal, but now maybe often the goal. Still, how to get into a government service, and it's all very competitive and sometimes very hard. Limited seats. As you go higher and higher up the pyramid, fewer and fewer seats. So intense competition, reservations. In my own practice, I've had a lot of people, students who say, I'm in the general merit category, and it's extremely difficult. So this is also an issue. And, there's no right or wrong here, because there are all kinds of forces in play. And going abroad, this also becomes a great source of stress. Getting into a good university, you need to score so many marks, and people join the IB, the Cambridge system, and then the monetary aspects. Educational infrastructure is grossly inadequate. That's why I think, and whether we need more colleges, seats. This is often talked about in the medical field also, all over. So, given the size of our population, do we have enough educational infrastructure? Definitely not. English medium. See, this is also something, a lot of students coming from the local vernacular curriculum as their, vernacular languages as their mode of instruction when they come to English medium, they have some challenges. Exam coaching centers have boomed, and this will bring to our minds, quota and what is going on. KOTA, not QUOTA. So, um, uh, naturally, these are all things that we cannot avoid because the market forces come into play. But, again, over there, a lot of factors get created. Everyone has to go for tuition, coaching, and, it has its own set of issues. Family pressure to achieve. I remember this was maybe about 18, 20 years old, not so in the early 2000s, one father and a boy, the boy uh, said, my results are going to come out any day now. I think he was in the 12th grade. He said that I have to score more than my cousin, that is his father's brother's son. Otherwise, I'm going to get it at home because my father says I have to do better than that kind of a pressure. I found it very sad at that time because what if that boy got just 40%? If he gets the person who came to me, yet 45% isn't good enough. Why this comparison? And within families, a lot of rivalry, competition, jealousy. So all that gets transmitted to the students. And learning disabilities. You see, as educators, I think it's very important. Someone is not doing uh, well or even is not up to the average performance, please consider learning disabilities, either intellectual disability or specific learning disabilities, and refer them for an assessment so that you can pick it up and get them appropriate help. A lot of students may be poor in maths, for example. So can they have a, you know, difficulty in maths, language disability. So these are things which can be diagnosed with an assessment. So I just wanted you to sensitize because again that leads to low self-esteem and the child gets reprimanded in all sorts of ways, but has a real genuine diagnosable problem. So this is another important aspect when it comes to youngsters. Suicide exposure and contagion. There is strong evidence that adolescents and young adults are vulnerable to the impact of suicide contagion resulting from media coverage. You see, this is important of suicide or exposure to suicidal behavior within the family. So, this, to put it simply, is there a copycat effect? It's also called the Werther effect, someone known. So young people are particularly affected when media accounts include pictures of the dissident or the site of the act. The suicide is presented or in a romanticized or glamorized manner or is linked to a common stressful experience such as bullying or the breakup of a relationship. Studies support the conclusion that having a friend or acquaintance attempt suicide raises the risk for suicidal behaviors and thoughts, but not completed suicide. So the data, in other words, supports attempts, uh, but they may not result in a completed suicide. But still, the individual is affected and distressed. That's the important point. Newspaper stories which have photos displaying sadness and the celebrity status of the deceased. Front page placement to be avoided. So the 2 points that I mentioned, they are for the media. There are certain media guidelines also as to how suicide needs to be reported, not highlighting it, not glamorizing it, giving pictures of the individual. You're supposed to report it in a particular way so that you don't sensationalize. Access to lethal means, this is another important thing in countries like United States, firearms are very easily accessible, and they are associated with a very high rate of lethality. You take a gun and shoot, can cause a very serious fatal injury. In our country, there have been attempts to regulate pesticides, poisonous substances. Nowadays, they have become strict about dispensing, sedatives, sleeping tablets. The medical shops, I mean, the drug controllers have become more strict. Also, there have been attempts to, have ceiling fans which are collapsible under weight. So, hanging as a method. So, these are some of the community measures to decrease access to lethal means. Uh, Now, there are also protective factors, family connectedness and support. I think it'll be infructuous if I talk more about this, because Dr. Murthy did a wonderful job, in saying that family. And the best part I liked about what he said was that consider yourselves, all educationists, as extended family. That was a beautiful point. So wherever you are, that's the family outside the home setting. It may be the school or the college, but you are all intertwined, interconnected. So if that same uh, love and affection and understanding is displayed, then this family connectedness and support. So supportive siblings may compensate. For example, parents are not very understanding or supportive. Siblings can compensate. And school connectedness and school safety. School connectedness helps. Emotional connections to friends, involvement in extracurricular activities, very important. You have sports and other extracurricular activities, debates, elocutions, music, all that. And it also contributes to more well-rounded personalities when they grow up. Perceived safety at school. So you have anti-bullying practices. This reduced access to lethal means I've spoken about. And then also social behavioral skills. See, as protective factors, you can have healthy coping, how to take defeat. We are all very fresh in our experience of the defeat, in the recent World Cup cricket. It was so difficult for a lot of us, isn't it? And healthy coping, how to cope with a loss or with challenging circumstances. So that is something uh, that can help to uh, act as a bulwark or a buffer and increase resilience. So there is also problem solving, and how to face challenging situations. That really helps. Now, warning signs of suicide. How to recognize. Now, for example, if there is sadness, you would have seen children at school. If there's a significant change in the behavior, earlier bubbling, cheerful, but now sad, withdrawn, and not that expressive. So that sadness, there's a change that you notice. So that's important. Hopelessness, not having hope or optimism about the future. So irritability and aggressiveness. So that's another sign. See, these are all not to be taken in isolation, but two things. One is, if there is a change or a departure from earlier behavior, we need to pay attention. And the other thing is, some of these traits, a lot of boys with irritability, aggressiveness may also have what we call attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So anyhow, I'm doing this because your antennae need to go up. Being withdrawn. I'm talking about change. Someone was more outgoing, friendly, interactive, and now is withdrawn. So making inquiries, not that everything signals or heralds, an impending self-harm behavior, but I think it calls for attention. That's what I'm saying. Neglect of personal hygiene and appearance, feeling trapped. This I think is important. Feeling trapped and no way out. Where you think there's no other way out, and someone says it's all useless, nothing is going to change. talking or writing about death and suicide, giving away possessions, collecting means, example, pills and poison. So this is all collectively for the educationists, maybe for peers, friends, and also for parents, with the caretakers at home. At home, they are the ones. So I think this is collectively for everyone who is with the uh, adolescent. Acts of self-harm, cutting, burning, cigarette stubs, sometimes matchsticks, or cutting oneself. Changes in sleeping and eating patterns. Someone loses appetite or is not able to sleep properly. Alcohol and drug use. This is also something, at least in Karnataka, where there's so much of easy access. So a lot of adolescents using alcohol, and they can become impulsive and with impaired judgment engage in acts which are not well thought of. So, and finally, this is the last slide. Uh, can students enjoy life, learning and life? These are some of the questions. So, as educationists, can we make learning and enjoyable to whatever extent? Uh, Enjoy academics, uh, participate in extracurricular activities, have fulfilling and enriching relationships with their peers, with their teachers, with their parents, and the purpose of life. So, brainstorming, talking, and allowing them to express what they want to, what are their dreams, and what do you desire. So, these are all aspects where they can become more expressive and channelize. What do you enjoy? We talk about what is distressing a lot, but what do they enjoy? What How to achieve happiness? What gives them joy? No activity is worthless. This is important. So, I remember how either it is engineering or medicine. I think that was a very lopsided. I say was because things are far better. Uh, though there's a lot of emphasis still. I think even commerce and whatever you do nowadays. If you ask me, I tell this to adolescents and youngsters. If you're sincere, if you excel in whatever you do, there is scope for everyone. And you see, this word startups. How is it possible? Startups, because you know we are creating more and more opportunity. So saying that no activity is worthless, whatever you do, give it your full, make efforts. Let's see. The thing, the things that go right in our lives do predict future successes. But more importantly, the things that go wrong do not damn us forever. So, someone gets low marks, someone gets doesn't succeed in passing in an exam, doesn't mean he's damned forever. This is by Fleshman and Wayland. Wayland has done. He was at Harvard. He's still around, if I'm not mistaken. Followed up people, children in school, in college, followed them up for 20, 30 years to see, what happened to them. So he has generated that kind of data. Now, the last part is that there is this telemanas, this telephone helpline number 14416. It's all India, and it's the mental health helpline for any kind of queries, including those who are in distress, who have suicidal thoughts. They can dial this hotline 24/7, different languages all over the country. If you dial this number, you can speak to someone. So I think this is also important. I would even recommend that you put it in your educational institutions. Mental health helpline, any kind of issues. Someone is not feeling too good, you can call and speak, and local, vernacular languages. It's not just a suicidal helpline, any kind of help, assistance. So we can create awareness that there is help. Approaching the school class teacher, approaching the school counselor, approaching anyone, including the principals. You can all say, please come and walk in, and you can guide them to the appropriate resources. So asking for help should be an option. They should know that it's not going to be stigmatized. It's okay to ask for help. I think that goes a long way. So I think, sorry, I went on a bit, but I think I'll take questions, and please don't hesitate. Thank you so much for your kind and patient listening.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a very, very informative session. Over to you, Bhairavi.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a wonderful session, to understand what are the strategies. Okay, now we have some questions here. The first question I would like to take up here is, what if I see suicidal messages on social media? Is it to be taken seriously?
Okay, that's an excellent question. Now, there is a myth, two things. One is, if you talk about suicide, can you put the thought into someone's mind? I say someone's mind, youngsters and adults. The answer is no. This has been proven over the past, let's say, almost since about 1985 or so. I have been following up this, and even today, the belief, the fact is that you cannot put thoughts. So if you see someone writing, let's say on the Facebook or on the media or even some notes, I think we should take it seriously. Why is this person thinking about this? And sometimes we tend to trivialize it to be creativity, because a lot of poets and those into the arts, they write about these themes. But I think we should ask, what is the context? Please, you see, deal with it in a sensitive manner. The first point I'm making is, take it all seriously, because the person, as I said, during the course of my talk, it may be a passive thought. Active suicidal thought, passive suicidal thought. So writing about death may be a passive expression of a suicidal thought. So asking, what is this that you have written? I just came across this. What was going on in your mind? So, that's a more open-ended approach. What were you feeling when you wrote this? So there's a thought. What was the feeling? So please broach the topic, break the ice, and broach the topic and inquire. So I would say, don't just be dismissive. Very often it's difficult for the person uh, to broach the topic. The other person may be relieved. Oh, he noticed. My teacher or my friend noticed it. Thank God. And it's an avenue to vent out one's feelings. So I would say it should not be taken to be a sign of manipulation, attention seeking. Those are all myths. I think that may be a lot more rare, but a lot of people who are distressed may write this. Thank you
Okay.
for bringing that question.
Okay, sir. There is one question here from Mr. Jawahar GS. He is asking, how do educators differentiate their opinion, which is gonna be relatively controversial to the students' distress? Explain to them, like if taken a student explain their problem, the teacher or anyone goes, like we had struggle in our days, which is gonna make a student think low of them further.
Okay. If I may understand this correctly, is the person asking whether we can talk about one's own experience?
Yes.
Okay. See, this is called a self-disclosure. And this is there even for doctors, psychiatrists, how far to reveal. Sometimes we have people asking, what would you do if you had been in this situation, or if your child were to have this? So,
Yes.
it is okay, because they want to know how you would deal with that situation. It's open. It's okay to be open and honest. And see, even self-disclosure, I think it should be limited. It shouldn't be. Please remember, the focus should always be on the other individual. You're the student. Okay, so you can use something as by means of analogy or an example, but then get back to the person and ask, what is it like for you? You can briefly narrate something, but again, I think I'll agree with that part. You don't have to put yourself down or portray yourself in a negative light, because the student looks upon you as maybe a role model or someone to emulate. So you can say that I've also been at your stage because I was your age once. So then
Yes.
that person feels, he has also gone through, and you develop a connection. You have also gone through this, but at the same time, shift the focus and ask, what is it for, like for you now? So some amount of self-disclosure with sensitivity is okay. You need not go into too many details, personal details. And also, please don't try to be very remorseful, regretful, because you can also emphasize what you learned rather than the other negative aspects. What you learned. So he gets the message, okay, I can learn from life experiences. The overall message should be learning from life experiences. And that everything is not permanent. This too shall pass. And these are all experiences that come and go. But are we willing to learn from life experiences?
But what happens, sir, when if a student has already some suicidal thoughts in their minds and they come up to the educator asking such questions?
Mm,
So then at that point of time, I feel the educator will need to, get in touch with the parents as well, or ask the parents
absolutely.
to see a counselor or a psychiatric.
Ma'am, you're absolutely right. Okay, this is a very important point that you made.
Yeah,
I would say one thing, with dealing with adults, there's also an issue of confidentiality. Now,
absolutely.
prior to the age of 18, the onus is on the parents or the guardians. Okay,
Yes.
so this particular topic or aspect, if someone has suicidal thoughts, there's no confidentiality. You can break confidentiality, and I think it is very important. I'll use the word mandatory. Please involve.
Okay.
Don't, yeah, but handle it with sensitivity so that the child does not feel cornered.
Yes.
But you can say, I think you need help, and we need to help you, and maybe your parents can also help you. Prepare the parents or the guardians, and say that this is not a sign of weakness. Very important. Not a sign of weakness. This is a cry for distress, not a sign of weakness, but a symptom of distress. We should help. And so, getting the school counselor, maybe getting the help of a professional, mental health professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever, is very important. Getting the child assessed. Someone expresses, get help.
Okay.
Uh, no point thinking, all right, he just said something. No, if he has said it, I think it's important to inform the parents or the guardians and recommend to them that they get the child some help.
They will have to use a positive approach to, otherwise the student might end up feeling that, okay, I'm going mad. You're telling
Absolutely.
me to meet a
Go,
counselor.
right. Going mad, in the sense, the person may be very confused, not knowing what to
Absolutely.
do, and
Yes.
also may end up doing something.
Yes.
I'm not saying about completed suicide, but harming oneself. If
Yes.
someone takes some overdose and all that, So even that we can probably preempt by getting the individual help, getting the person help.
Okay. There's another question, sir, here. The participant hasn't mentioned their name. How do educators take up the topic of inclusivity when coming to institution hosting a wide group of students?
Good question. Good question. Uh, so inclusivity, and I suppose the other end of the spectrum would be divisiveness, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
hmm, uh, I think treating everyone with dignity and respect probably would demonstrate over a period of time, that the institution or the individual believes in inclusivity and taking everyone along. So, but what happens to all of us is we all have conditioned minds because of our own experiences, our own education. It
Yes.
depends, where I come from and what I've believed in. So this ideally, uh, you know, everyone should be equal, but the way things are, events are. But I think we should teach youngsters also the oneness. Uh, See, children may also learn through examples. Uh, I tell people, there's so much of divisiveness based on culture, religion, language, uh, financial status. All these are there. But we can also tell, this is the way I tell youngsters. Look, if I sneeze in the hospital, they say, Doctor, you're also having a cough. They're amazed. They think doctors are always healthy. I say, I also am like you. Look, I have 10 fingers. You too have 10 fingers. So they say, okay, he's also like me. We are all alike. Now we can also say that, you have roses, pink rose, red rose, yellow rose, white rose. But if you look at the external color, there are differences, but if you smell a rose with your eyes closed, you won't see the color. See, you have to make them understand because their minds are different. So there may be differences, but there are commonalities. And every person has the potential to achieve. You see, why do we have educational institutions? To create more opportunities. So we may be coming from something, but we have the opportunity. Sorry, I would strongly urge, I don't know what all of you will think. I tell people to read our great president APJ Abdul Kalam's books. And I give his example how he came from such a deprived. See, we should have our Indian examples. Deprived background, he stood under a lamppost and studied, and look where he rose. Bharat Ratna designed all those, rockets. So give examples, and even some of his clipping speech, simple thinking, but how he rose. So we can inspire people from such backgrounds that there is opportunity for everyone and there's no bar based on whatever restrictions you want to impose. The restrictions are in your minds. You can, through hard work, sincerity, commitment, see those attributes you need to emphasize upon. These are all things that you came with, but sincerity, hard work, perseverance, not giving up, believing in yourself, those are the things that you need to cultivate because those are things in your hands.
Okay. Something that our Vice Chancellor mentioned about extended family when he was talking, sir. At the same point of time, when we discussed the first question, you said the student or the can go to the educator and discuss with. But what happens? There is a question from anonymous person. I mean, participant here. They're saying when we go to the parent, they will rather blame the school. So at that point of time, student will feel okay. I have gone to my teacher or somebody I have trusted, and that person has gone to my parent whom I'm not comfortable. That student is introvert. So, what could be the effect on the student's mind and how the teachers can manage this situation?
I fully agree. Being in an educational institution, being a teacher, a principal is a very challenging job.
Absolutely.
A very challenging job because it's almost like paisa vasool. We are, they have a sense of entitlement. I'm making a very broad statement,
Yes.
very broad statement. But I think what needs to be emphasized is, like in a hospital, I've seen they'll have patients' rights and also patients' responsibilities. There's a charter. So similarly, is this like a educational institution? You put something and you get something out? Not at all. The family is also involved. It's a stakeholder. I think it's important to emphasize, and probably also uh, talking to the parents so that their expectations are expressed. What are they expecting? How much time are they able to spend with the child? What have they noticed? See, you also, this is what we have noticed here. What have you noticed at home? How is he? See, questioning and taking their observations and opinions, so that they also talk rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need to do this. So over a period of time, and a lot of times, I think there is this denial that parents are in. How can my child be like this? He's not at all like this at home. So,
Yes.
in a particular setting, he may exhibit some behavior, and that is something that needs to be conveyed. And also, trying to say things like, "Okay, we'll observe, we'll give it some time. I only wanted to sensitize this." You can also say, it's our duty to inform you, because you need to be kept in a loop. If we don't tell, also it becomes withholding information. So we
And
thought
still
we
they
will
will
tell.
be blamed for that also, that you did not tell us why you did.
Exactly.
So there is a way
Exactly.
they can
Exactly.
definitely, yeah.
That's what I meant. You're absolutely right, man. So saying that, but then avoid being confrontational. If and repeated follow-ups once a month or whatever you think is appropriate, and saying, and then I also tell, if at some point the person or the educationist thing, please refer for professional help. You can say, we would like you to have an opinion, and it is okay. Some people become very defensive, what labeling a child as a problem maker, or stigmatizing. See, that those are the things actually which are there in the background. But you can say, there can be health issues, can be. We are not experts in this. Get an
We are
expert
taking you to the
opinion.
experts. We are guiding you to the experts.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And it's a good idea to have a school or a college counselor or a tie-up,
Yes,
whomever you want, you can refer to.
So
absolutely.
one of course is definitely having a counseling department associated where
Right,
they can invite the counselor to discuss. But the moment a teacher, because the teacher is the first one to come to know,
right.
if the relationship between the teacher and the students is extremely good
Mm, mm,
and
mm,
very positive, the student will
mm.
definitely come and give the hint. Some talks will happen. Now
Absolutely.
there are two things.
Mm,
As Pallavi has put forward. Sorry, Bhairavi has put forward that question.
mm,
Teacher is always busy because it's a class 12th or class 11th kind of an atmosphere where you do not have time. You have a
mm,
syllabus to complete,
mm,
schedule to complete.
mm,
But it's always good to go back after your duty hours to the principal and
mm.
first of all intimate them. It's like a junior doctor coming to a senior doctor and saying, I saw this something like this. Now the principal knows.
Right.
So let's first make sure that the atmosphere becomes more and more supportive and positive for that child.
Absolutely.
Let
Absolutely.
them believe in the school.
Right.
Let the school be highly, taking care of it. In the meantime, let the principal decide
Mm,
how and when should the parents be called.
mm,
What should be that the discussion to be taken up in a
mm,
positive way,
mm, mm,
so that the school's concern is also being shared to the parents.
mm,
And when the principal talks,
mm,
where and by that time when the child sees that there is very good support from the school, not only from the
mm,
faculty, from the principal, for that matter anybody else in the
mm,
school,
mm.
probably he may open up more and the concerns could be polished, which is very, very important from a faculty's point of view. I understand that a teacher may not have time, but by
Mm,
taking the support of the other members of the school,
mm, mm,
at least this becomes clear and
mm,
they are able to support the child. Supporting the child means at least he sees some ray of hope here
mm,
in a positive way. And that's
mm,
how a school today can make sure that their role, of course, counseling is going to be there, but
mm,
the parents and the atmosphere, if the atmosphere in the house is bad, that
mm,
also is then generally addressed.
mm. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you
Over
have
to your parents. Yeah.
Uh,
very nice.
what happens nowadays, the parents are working, okay?
Mm,
This, we do not have joint family system anymore. I mean, hardly there
mm,
are families who are staying. So
mm,
these students, they want attention from the parents. So is it
mm.
possible that they're threatening about suicide only to get the attention, or trying, all these whatever strategies or symptoms we discussed? Is it
Right.
possible that student is just doing it to get the attention from the parents or somebody else?
That can happen very much. I do agree with you. Attention seeking. Unfortunately, sometimes what happens is it can lead to something more serious, because the adolescent or the child may not have the capacity to think about the consequences of what he or she is engaging in. For example, someone takes some tablets and it causes some organ damage. Need not always be death.
Yes.
And we see this, and uh, that itself can be very a traumatic experience for the entire family, the individual included. So feeling sidelined, not being heard, not given enough platform to address their issues, I would put it that way. So
Yes.
they seek to draw attention through one of these means, because this is more dramatic, and definitely it will grab the attention of the caregivers, be it the parents or anyone else. So I fully agree with you. But let me put it this way. Uh, what happens to a lot of these individuals is, because they've engaged in the act, they are invariably, taken to a doctor, brought to the hospital, and through the doctor they may get the attention, but that seldom happens. The lack of attention may also be one of the factors that causes psychological issues for this child. That is more common. The parents being too occupied, busy, not spending enough time. So the child has already developed psychological issues, and the distress from that is more likely to be the cause for engaging in self-injurious behavior rather than attention seeking alone. Attention seeking does happen. There's a subset, what we call evolving borderline uh, personality. There, they may be attention seeking and all, but that's a subset. But children who have what I called, those behavioral problems, the depression, anxiety, and all, those disorders are more likely to be causative in causing the self injurious behavior. So, attention
But
seeking,
such students, if even if they are giving, now you said they need to be taken to the specialist or anything.
right, right.
But having this thought in their mind of this attention, and
Mm,
God forbid it should not happen, but if they try to attempt something like this, or some incident happened
right,
unknowingly,
right.
are there any support groups for these such students or community, or the school should only have it?
No, there are a lot of helplines nowadays. If you just see, now this is a Government of India initiative, and there are now, for example, in Chennai, they have one helpline. There's an NGO called Sneha. So there are such suicide helplines, or psychological distress helplines all over. There's also a child helpline. You can see, sorry, I don't remember the number, but there's a child helpline for our entire country. So you can just call,
Okay.
and anyone can call and talk, and the child can get help. Yes. So there are helplines. There are also, I also tell people, you can ask for help. You see adolescents coming and they say, I wanted help, so I told my father, he has brought me. They are asking for help. I don't know the proportion, but you do see this wasn't the case maybe 10 years ago. So it's important to publicize this. What I meant at the school level was, I remember in Nimans, my professor, he said, you can come without knocking. You know, he was the head of the department, and he said, please walk in without knocking. So in other words, no formalities, and you can just come. And if he was busy, he would say, can you come at this time? But that accessibility was there. So similar atmosphere in school, you can tell, to all the students, at least in middle school, high school. So you break barriers, basically.
One more thing, sir. One question has come, but I would just try and frame it in another way. What has happened during pandemic? We have seen students getting good marks, 100% marks, okay, for 2 years almost. And now suddenly those marks have come little low. What has happened in return? The parents or the students' expectations have gone low. The parents, especially parents' expectation, okay, my child can do so much. And that is now giving a pressure to the students. Okay, even if it is in 10th or 12th, these are the stepping stones of their life. So if something happens like this with an introvert student who's
Right.
not opening up to the parents also, who doesn't have a sibling, who
Mm.
doesn't have any good friends, he or she say, no, I don't have any friends, whom do I go?
Mm.
How this pressure and these students can be managed with this so much of pressure from parents, teachers, and then they see so much of competition is there in the market. I mean, to do something, if they want to do something, everybody has expectations.
Mm.
But sometimes we fail to ask them what is that they want.
Mm.
So
Mm.
how this situation can be tackled, sir?
You really hit the nail on the head. Pandemic has created a lot of complications, and you won't believe it. Even now, every week there are few people, youngsters, school and college going, who say, I invariably will ask if someone comes with cough, how many days have you had cough? So when it comes to behavioral problems, they say it has become a landmark when the pandemic started. This is the answer a lot of youngsters give.
Yes.
So from about 2020, this started with the lockdown. So a lot of youngsters who are spending a lot more time on the electronic media. You can't tell them don't spend so much time, because now everything they say, I'm studying on the phone, I'm
Yes,
studying on the
gadgets are
laptop.
like in their hands.
So
It's
uh,
their world.
so you cannot say put away the phone, because they say that's my tool to study. So those uh, boundaries have gotten blurred. Number one. Number two, as you very correctly said, isolation, um, online classes. Now going back, the social skills have come down. Being closeted at home during the lockdown, created a lot of family tensions. No doubt about that. Normal peer relationships got hampered, and now back, and it's taking time. See, even though the schools may have been open for what, 1.5 years, the
Yes.
sequelae are still there. No doubt about that. And to get back on track, probably it's going to take a long time. I don't know if that generation, so many even medical students, engineering students, those of professional courses, they've been affected. So on the other hand, for introverts, that was a convenient strategy. I don't have to go to school. I can study. There are some of these who do very well in front of the computer and their books, but they don't want social life. They don't want
Yes.
interacting with peers. Now to go back to their institutions and interact in the real world, that has been challenging and intimidating, I would say. So they also have another set of problems. Parents also keep complaining that, after the lockdown, these have been the things and their worlds have changed. So you're absolutely right. And, they need to be addressed at an individual level.
So how we can go ahead with such students? Like what we have to do? Like if you can give us some, few guidelines on that,
Mhm. Mhm.
how to handle such students with stress, so much of stress.
I think one of the things that can be done is allowing them to talk about their experiences. How was life for them? Because the setting was different. You were not getting out of the home. You were not playing with your friends. You were not coming to school. What was it for? Like, so it's like, opening up. We use the word catharsis. Let those feelings come out. What did they feel missed in their lives? And what can help them to get back? So allowing them to talk about it is important, but at the same time, tailoring whatever interventions we want to bring about in individual way. For example, someone was feeling deprived, suffocated in that atmosphere, we can ask, what is it that is better or positive about coming to school and promote that behavior. Whereas a person who was comfortable at home, we say that, look, we need to interact. I tell people, sometimes even when you come to the hospital, the first contact will be with the receptionist. Now, you need to interact to whatever extent. You go to a shop, you want to interact for some reason, you give an interview. So, some minimum interaction is required. See, if you tell too many things, then that person gets overwhelmed and over anxious. So, we say, for example, I tell students who come in, you came in very appropriately. You greeted me, you're making good eye contact, you're communicating very well. So, you give positive reinforcement and say, you know, you did it with me. I'm a doctor. You're interacting with me for the first time and you did well. Similarly, educationists can also say, you're doing well here. In other words, give positive reinforcement for whatever they exhibit is desirable. And role plays may also help in a school setting. Role plays, yes, you can, I tell sometimes you can have groups where each one interacts, and in a group setting, they become more expressive. Brainstorming, if you want to call it, maybe, in a class, 10, 15, 20 students. So they open up, oh, he's talking about feelings. It's appropriate for me also to talk. So opening up channels of communication. Some of them may require professional help. Please do that. That I think you will see depending on the level of distress, what the parents say, and what you people think as educators. Not everyone may require professional help, but even at the school level, these kind of interventions, it helps.
Okay. So one more question here. What assurances can you offer parents as they navigate these serious mental issues with their children? The fear of stigma often keeps parents from sharing information with schools or teachers.
Okay, that's a very good question and an important one. You see, adolescence is a period where a lot of changes are taking place in the brain. And unfortunately, some of the serious mental disorders also have their onset during that period. For example, there is something uh, a lot of you may have heard of, schizophrenia or psychosis.
Yes.
It starts, in the prime of the life, maybe around 18 to 22 or so. Lot of bipolar disorder around the same age group. So a lot of it's like, young children can have allergies, asthma, wheezing. So these disorders also can start. So it's important to realize that the brain is also an organ. If my eye is affected, my vision is affected. If my ears are affected, my hearing is impaired. Similarly, if the brain is also affected, then it can affect my behavior. And that is also an organ which is vulnerable. I think there is more and more data coming up that, you know, uh, the brain is also responsible for behavior. And during this age, a lot of people may be vulnerable, a lot of youngsters. So, what I'm trying to say is not everything may be deliberate or willful. There is an interaction between the individual or the biology and also the environment. But what is important is to recognize and get help. So, if parents can be told that there are many behavioral problems which can occur and they are not very rare, and a lot of them are treatable. See, that is important. If you take help, if you get assessed and you're seen by an appropriate professional, a lot of things can be improved or changed. A lot of people think this is willful or it is because of lack of moral fiber, and they blame themselves also, poor upbringing, or the child has not paid enough attention to certain things, not prioritized correctly. That is why he's or she is like this. So what is equally important is, there may be a fall and a person may have had a fracture. Maybe he was looking somewhere and he didn't notice the banana peel. But we don't blame the person. We say, okay, come, let's go to an orthopedic surgeon. We'll see what needs to be done. The person takes an X-ray and fixes the bone. So that kind of an approach, solution oriented rather than only the problem. Okay, this is the problem. Let's see if there are solutions and get help. And not only that, say that a lot of things, if they are given appropriate attention and help, the future, have a long-term view. If the authorities concerned are empathetic and they say that, look, we'll keep some of these things confidential. See, that's another thing. They think that everything will be known by everyone and, it will be made public. The fear of humiliation, shame, and guilt. These three things: humiliation, shame, and guilt. So, no need for those things. These things can happen. Educators can say, over the years, we have seen such children with appropriate help, they have done well, they have got good jobs, they have led successful lives. In other words, the outcome need not be negative.
Yes.
That goes a long way in destigmatizing. And that a lot of these things are treatable. I think that is important. So stigma, taboo, they are all, barriers. I fully agree with you. And even I struggle with that, because people, before they come to us, they would have gone around uh, all kinds of, sorry, I always tell parents, it's okay, you can pray, you can go to temples, mosques, churches, but you also give a bath to your children, you feed them good food. In other words, taking responsibility. So please take responsibility to get your children awards, appropriate help. You can do other things also. So some things may be medical, some things may be requiring some form of educational interventions. Please get the child appropriate help. Get professional help. If something is wrong with your car, you take it to the mechanic, don't you?
Yes.
You
Absolutely.
won't take it. Yeah. So give these examples. If there's something wrong with the electrical system at your home, you don't call the plumber. If the plumbing system is wrong, you give such examples and say appropriate professional. Pediatrician may be a first point of contact. Maybe the pediatrician will refer to a mental health professional, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. So, and say that, getting help is important.
Yes, sir. That's absolutely right. We need to seek help. We need to open up. The students
Yes.
need to open up to somebody.
Yes.
They can confide with that person, trust
Yes.
completely, and then it can be taken it into a positive situation. Absolutely.
Especially when
What
you talk
happens-
about educators,
Mm.
because student today spends good amount of time, especially look at the segment that we're talking about.
Mm.
Teachers need to be vigilant about such things, and please understand, you are busy, we know, but this is also very, very important because you learn a much better skill in your life. And believe me, you will be a very good teacher when you are able to identify, discuss, motivate, and change the situation that the child is into. I know we are not doctors, we cannot go to that particular level, but the initial activity that we do, the care that we take, is very, very important as educators. Though we must be in a very busy schedule, PU college teachers, I can understand how your life is, but still, we want to be good teachers. We want to make sure we make a difference in the student's life. For such students, if you are able to make the difference, believe me, we will be able to justify our presence on this planet.
Yes.
Right, Bhairavi, I think it's time up. And we also
Yes,
have
sir.
Sir's time
There
there.
was one question. It's been pending. Actually, it's waiting for me to get it.
Mm.
Uh, Prabhu sir, does asking someone about suicide put the idea in their head?
See, that's a long-standing myth. Uh, you know, if you, in fact, we doctors, psychiatrists have what is called as a mental state examination. I'll give you a small example. If you go to a throat doctor, he will say, open your mouth, he'll put a tongue depressor and look at the back. If you go to a eye doctor, maybe, he will ask you to read some alphabets to assess your vision. Similarly, as a part of our psychiatric examination, this is one of the questions because number one, uh, it's not a very uncommon thought. Number two, a lot of people, it is proven, this has been studied over a long period of time across cultures and countries, that this is not something that you can instill or put into someone's mind, and you can't give ideas. If it is not there, it is not there. But if it is there and you give help to the person, you can prevent. It is like, the doctors will also ask, do you get headaches? Do you have a history of any allergies? So this is a complete myth that by asking, you can put the thought. I'll narrate one example. Uh, this was around 1990. You see, I was in the US, and in the hospital, I was seeing a Russian immigrant. Those days, a lot of Jewish people uh, from Russia, they were being transported, and they could only speak Russian, no
Yeah.
English. And I was, dealing with such a person. There was a translator, and I asked him, "How are you feeling?" And this question I had to ask in the US, and we are supposed to document it. You know what he told me? He said, "If thank you for asking me that question." And this was a person, I think he must have been more than 60, and a fairly elderly gentleman. He said, all my life I lived in Russia. Now I've come here. I've left behind everything, my culture, everything. And he said, sometimes I felt like this, but I think I have a future here. So I have hopes. He felt so relieved. Even in our day to day clinical practice, I'll tell you, there are so many times when adolescents, they will say, can you send my parents out? I want to talk to you. And this is something that they will confide and say, I've had people who roll up their sleeves and they will say, look at my hand, look at my wrist, or, this is what I did. And when you talk about it, they're relieved. If it is not there, it is not there. That's it. You won't instill that thought. This is the, consensus of psychiatrists, mental health professionals all over the world. So it's not an inappropriate question to ask. Number one. Number two, you won't be instilling. By the way, there's the other aspect also, which I have not brought up. You see, what happens in Western countries is a lot of shootings are taking place. You'll keep reading this in America, especially. So you're also supposed to ask in the US whether you intend to harm yourself or others. Here in India, we are not asking whether you intend to harm others. Self, yes, a lot of us ask. Because there's so much of anger, aggression sometimes, which I talked about during the course of my presentation. If someone goes and, pulls out a gun, you may read the paper, today's paper. I think
Right.
there was an incident in Delhi where a 16-year-old slit someone's throat and danced on the body. And the police want to try him as an adult. Today's paper, please see this. It's national news. So, these things are there and they're grabbing media attention. And maybe rare, to tell you the truth, but they're grabbing media attention. Now, what will happen? Police inquiry. Did he express thoughts of harming anyone? That question will be raised. Which school was he going to? Did he exhibit any kind of behavior? There's going to be an inquiry, in other words.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
huh. How to predict, basically.
Yes.
It's not possible to predict directly or with absolute certainty, but our attempt is to prevent where possible, isn't it? So asking, yes. And I gave you the figures. It's a public health problem,
Yes.
growing problem. So we need to pick up the vulnerable,
Absolutely.
identify the vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So you can't put the thought into anyone's head.
Yes. Sir, you have any questions, sir? Shinde sir?
That's it. That's it. I think we should
Yes,
take it up.
we can wind up now. Thank you so much, Dr. Vikram Prabhu sir, for your time. And it was really enlightening webinar. I'm sure our participants have got a lot of strategies how to handle these adolescent, and definitely this what we can say, the suicide rates, what is going up. It will definitely come down to zero. Definitely we have to try with our the teachers are themselves, they're so experienced, they can definitely try and take control of the situation and try and positively handle the students. Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
would like to tell the participants, whoever has registered, they will be getting e-certificates within next 2, 3, 4 working days from me. And if they have any questions to ask, to put forward to Dr. Vikram Prabhu, so they can definitely share it with me. If whenever Dr. Prabhu has time, I will check with him and I'll guide it to them. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a
Thank
lovely
you.
session. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.